G'day, my name's Chris. Welcome back to the shed. It's Flat Tank Friday again. The Douglas, it still hasn't gone to the engine whisperer. I'm hoping it goes this week, but that's not the end of the world. I got a lot of video of little jobs I've done on my special over the last few days. I'm filthy, I'm dirty, covered in oil, I'm tired, but I've had a pretty good run. I'm pretty pleased. Coming up, I've been sanding and preparing the tanks off the special for nickel plating. I hope to do a video about my attempts to nickel plate, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, enjoy today's videos, I hope. Comment if you like. Side view of my special, and one of the tanks is off. I've been giving it a polish and a sand as I attempt to nickel plate it. I've got some foot pegs that I bought. They're I actually don't know what they are. They were described on a website as Bruff, BSA, Triumph, but I bought them. So I'm trying to fit them and a brake mechanism to my special. So I had to ghetto up some sort of way of getting my seat height and my foot peg height. As most of you have seen in the video, I'm a pretty big man. I'm 130 kilos and I'm 6'2", whatever that is in metric. I don't know. I speak a little bit of both. So here's my system for working it out. I got a couple of 90 by 45s and propped one underneath the frame and sat on the wheel. And I put the other one side on to get a bit of a seat height. Then down on the bike lift, I used 70 by 45s and made a piece that goes across almost the full width of what the foot pegs would be when they're hard up against the engine mounts. And then I guessed at about 130 mil from the height of the bench, which is the height of the wheels without tyres. I'm thinking I'm going to put 325s on, so I'll end up with another 100 mil of height. So that'll give me 230, 250 of foot peg height. So I'll bring you down and show you what I did. So here's the height, and I worked out I can put the foot peg about here. That's a better shot of it, I think. And I can get it that far forward, which is really quite comfortable, and at that height. And then I can mount the foot pegs. After I've got them on and established that they're in line with one another, I'm thinking I'll mount my brake pedal and mount the brake arm that I've already made. It's actually turned into a good result. It's let me have a look at the bars as well. So let's come up and have a look at the bars. Right, up to the bars. I had wanted the bar in line with the frame because I thought aesthetically it was pleasing. And I had wanted the bar mounts, which are not pinned in place yet, right down because I thought that looked aesthetically pleasing too. But in reality, I'm too old, too fat, and my back's too bad for that. So I'm going to bring them up to about level, and then that'll let the bar just come back a little bit, a couple of inches, and let me bring the bar in line with the frame and make a semi-plausible position for riding. Not comfortable, but semi-plausible. The main thing is getting my knees and my feet on the foot pegs and my knees up so that I can ride at some distance without killing myself. My Triumph is really, really nice, but is really, really uncomfortable to ride. So there's my ghetto system for working out the height of the foot pegs. I'm going to have at this and see if I can mount a foot peg, see what it looks like. So I've made an educated guess using my block of wood system to get the height at about 130 mil, which will be more like 250 mil when I've got tyres on it. I've bought a hole, and then I've made a 62mm spacer that's got a 1/2 inch hole for the back of it. It pushes in with just a little bit of force. It might be better, you can see. And then I'm going to slide the drill bit through there, and I'm going to drill the other side. I'm going to hope they're really level, although I've worked out one of my foot pegs has got a bit of a bend in it, and I'm going to give that a heat and a twist and when it's all bolted up. But that will be about the mounting point, about there. Then I'm going to bend and twist that straight and get the two of them lined up. Wish me luck as I attempt to bore this hole in the right place. Well, now it's truly a project. It's drawn blood. Slice my finger on a drill bit. Pain in the bum. Wash up, clean up. I'm back after band-aiding my finger. A little wrap on it. Just one of those sharp cuts with a drill bit. Not deep, but just sliced and bled a bit. On a bright note, here's some half-inch shaft through the two holes. And this is a peep of gas pipe, seamless gas pipe down the middle that takes the half-inch really neatly, and the whole thing will move, but you do have to push it. It's not loose. So that's a really good result. I'm going to fit these foot pegs up now and see how they go over, and then set them at a height and drill the pinhole and see how I go. Other than that, I think it's come along all right. I don't see too many problems at this point. I emphasise the at this point. Getting a bit excited now. Progress made. Half-inch threaded bar, cut some 26 thread per inch, cycle threads on the end, and then bored a 3/8 hole to take the pin just above the shaft. Slid that on and gave it a tap with a hammer, and the pin has gone into the 3/8 hole really tidily. Really happy with that one. Brought it around the front. It's almost level. I might give it a heat and a bit of a straighten up. And now on to the other one. Got to get the other one in the vise. It's well bent, but I think it's going to work. Spacer in the middle, should be able to tighten it all up, make some nice nuts, put a spring washer underneath and some Loctite, and Bob's my uncle. Looks good. On the bench you can also see the brake pedal I've been working on, and I'll come to that when I get to it, and we'll mount that up and see if we can get the brake pedal, brake arm and rear wheel all in line and in place. Now she should be straight. She's not. She's got a fair old bend in the footrest part of it. I'm going to apply some heat to it and see if I can't straighten it out. I'll get it nice and warm and see how I go. Wish me luck. Hope this doesn't break. Boy, have I got a mess. Tools everywhere. The foot peg straightened out really well. Gave it a lot of heat and gently bent it in various places. Let it cool, heated it, cooled it, and it's cool. It's worked out great. Did find an anomaly though that I didn't realise. The foot peg, as I saw it, was all one piece, and the footrest area was attached to this back piece. As I heated this, it popped off. It's actually on a tapered shaft, and this piece has a taper on the end that settles on that. That sort of says to me that I've got it mounted the wrong way, and that the foot peg should be downwards, because if you put any weight on this, it will force its way around. I didn't know that, so I do now. So it's time for me to stop and consider my options. Few options. I could zap and weld the back of it. Would be easy enough, I suppose. Clean it up on both sides and it'll probably hold. I could set it up in the milling machine, bore right through, slide a pin in, and then bore the centre out so it's pinned on both sides with a roll pin. I have roll pins and can do that, so that feels like it might be a good idea. Bore right through and put two short roll pins properly to hold them in place. For now though, I'm pretty happy. They look good. They look at about the same height. I haven't drilled the hole and made a pin for this one because the pin was missing. All in all though, I think it's a success. I'm going to break for the night because I think I'm on the verge of getting something wrong. I'll bring you back when I've got something more exciting to show you. Here's the foot pegs. They're fitted up. Wasn't actually a much bigger job from yesterday. Got a bit dirty and my thumb's still a bit sore where I cut it. But it's come up really well. Close up here on the right hand side of the bike. You can see I made a nut. Chamfered off the end of that shaft that I had yesterday. And of course it's pinned in the frame, in the engine mount from the foot peg. Let's come around the other side and you can have a look at the other side. This was the side where the foot peg or the footrest was bent and didn't go quite as smoothly. I've actually welded a pin into the engine mount and put it through the hole that was in the footrest. It works really, really well, and I've got them level. They're both about 135mm from the work surface of the bike lift, and then we'll get lift again when there's tyres on the bike, because there's no rubber on it, of course. Another nut on this side that I made out of a great big spring washer. Chamfer on the end again. Nice generous nut. Cycle thread. Everything's gone together well. Nice spacer in the back here to allow everything to pinch together without bending the engine mounts, because of course you could actually spring them a bit. So that's a really good result. So now I'm on to the brake pedal, and that's coming along pretty well too. So I'll bring you in and we'll have a look at where I'm at with the brake pedal. Excuse the mess around the shed. I've had stuff everywhere. So the brake pedal you can see in front of you is actually something I had cast for my black 27 side valve Beezer, but it was the wrong pedal. The guy sent me the wrong one, and after a little negotiation I kept it, and then he sent me the right one. So this is off actually the model bike that I've got. It's off the Deluxe, which was slightly bigger and had a different brake pedal assembly than the bike I've got, the other bike. I didn't have the shaft that it mounts to, so I made one. It's relatively simple. It's just out of a piece of 22mm shaft. I machined this portion down to take the brake pedal. I put a 5mm roll pin in to match the brake pedal where the travel of the brake pedal is, and that works really well. And then I machined some cycle thread on the end to just pinch up but not tighten up on the brake pedal. Let's see if I can get all this together. There we go. So I can get a washer and a spring washer that rests just against the shoulder of the machined shaft and just apply a little bit of pressure to the brake pedal. The roll pin lets the travel of the pedal be controlled only in the slot that's cast into the pedal itself, and that's really good. So this afternoon I've measured things up while a mate was here, and I've made a 40mm gap that goes to the frame or to the engine mounts, and then I've machined this down to 12.6, and then I cut a 1/2 inch cycle thread on the end. So I'm going to drill some holes in the engine mounts and make a spacer to go between the engine mounts, just like I did with the footrests, and then I'm going to see if all this will bolt up and how it'll go. I will have to put a pin in here somewhere that notches into the engine mounts to stop the whole thing turning in the engine mount, and that was kind of similar in my other BSA. So I'll resolve that as we go along. How hard can it be? There we have it. I've got a 1/2 inch hole, and I've got a 62mm spacer, and I've just bored that out from 1/2 inch to 13mm, just that 0.46 of a millimetre to allow the shaft to slide through easily. I'm going to tuck that up in there behind, straighten it all up, and then use that as a guide to drill a hole on the other side. That's what I did with the foot pegs, and I ended up with a reasonable result. That's what I'm going to do this time, and I'm going to hope for the best. Here's the plan then. I drilled a 5mm hole underneath the 1/2 inch hole, and then I filed the two together. I'm going to put that into the shaft like that and let it come down into that hole. That should stop, dropped it, that should stop the whole thing turning, and then that should let just the brake pedal turn. I'm not going to go far into the shaft, maybe 3 or 4 mil in, and then tap this in and then cut that off to length. I think this will work. So again, wish me luck. I'm down in the vise. I just removed this from the milling machine. I've drilled a 5mm hole in that shaft where I need it, and I'm just about to tap the roll pin in, and then I'm going to cut the roll pin at length. The roll pin measures 5.15 before you tap it in, and then it's kind of sprung, I suppose. I'm hoping this will work. This is actually getting a bit complicated and a bit hard to see. I hope you can see that. I've tapped the roll pin in. It's as tight as. It's gone in about, I think I drilled the hole about 5.5mm deep. I then sliced the top off, and I've just used a file to take the burrs off it. So, let's see if it fits. And it just grabs in the hole, and then I think if I give that a little tap with the knockometer, also known as the hammer, bear with me while I make some noise, that's pulled in hard up to the engine mount. And when I tighten up a nut on the other side, I reckon that'll be tickety-boo. Now, that can't turn. Sorry about the shaky camera. And then when I slide the pedal on, the pedal only has its own travel. So it'll have travel relative to the footrest. So hopefully I've got everything in the right spot. I suppose if I haven't, I can always weld up that niche and move it around a little bit. But pretty good, or move the travel of the pedal. Looks a little bit low to me. I'm going to fit up the footrest, put some nuts and bolts on, and bring you back, and we're going to see how it all worked out. And I'm going to tell you the truth if I've got it in the wrong place. Well, there it is. That's been a big weekend's work. I've had a fair old crack at that. The pedal. I reckon the pedal's about 5 or 6mm lower than I'd like it to be. It's above the height of the footrest, and it works pretty well. I've got it adjusted reasonably well, but is it perfect? No. Is it close? Yes. And I think it's close enough for me at this stage. Happy with the way it's come out. Happy with the way it functions. It all functions just as it should. Got a fair bit of throw. I need new brake pads, of course, so you wouldn't have that much throw. And a lot of that can be adjusted out. The spring in it works really well. I never mentioned the brake rod. I make those myself. That's 1/4 inch shaft, and the clevis clips are off balustrading from verandas. They're stainless steel. They're left-handed and right-handed, and they tension up. And if you use 3/16 BSF, you can tap in, and that's handy for me because I had a set of left-handed taps and dies that are BSF from 3/16 to a half. So I get the full capacity to adjust the rod by twisting, and it works really well. And you end up with stainless fittings. Not for the purist, I would admit, but I don't think they look too bad, and they're well pinned, and they're stainless, and they're easy to work with. And I think I pay about $7 or $8 for them, the pair, and they work out really well. Come around the other side of the bike. Other side of the bike, here's the footrest. Here's where I welded and cleaned up a bit, and here's where the brake mechanism comes through. Spacer in the middle, of course. I need to get myself a nice 1/2 inch spring washer because I'm out of them, and then I need to face off the thread because I don't like that much hanging out, and just get rid of this support hole that I drilled. All the rest of these bolts need the same sort of things done. All in all though, I'd have to say I think it's a reasonable outcome, and I haven't made any horrible mistakes. It isn't perfect, but it's close to it, and it's probably good work for me. Really happy. Haven't spent really any money other than what I'd already had, and built those out of what I had here. Good outcome. Now move on to the next jobs. There you have it. That's Flat Tank Friday for another week. Bit disjointed, but that's the video I had. The footrests for me were a major outcome. I was really pleased. They came out really well. In the end, I welded the footrest to the taper, I heated them really significantly with a blowtorch first, and then just welded them, and they welded quite easily in the end, and I'm not a welder by any stretch. So I was really pleased with that. There's no movement in them, they can't rock, they're pinned to the engine mount, and they're welded on to themselves to make a solid thing. So I'm happy with that. The height of them, they're almost perfectly in line with one another. I suppose when I sit on the bike I'll find out one's higher or lower than another. We'll see. The brake pedal. I didn't have footage of the early part of making that shaft, so I did the best I could. I hope you understand that it's not always easy to make the footage and it takes forever. I'm pretty pleased with the brake pedal. Is it perfect? No, I reckon it's about 5 to 6 mil too low, but it's pretty good. Coming up, I'm going to attempt nickel plating at home, and I'm going to nickel plate the tank that's underneath that sheet. I've got a lot of work to do. I've got a lot of buffing to do on a Sizewell wheel, and I'm going to polish and polish and polish until it's the best I can do. And then I'm going to attempt home nickel plating. We'll see how it goes. I'll bring you along for the ride. I hope you've had a great weekend. Cheers. See ya.